Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time now to look back at the January transfer window for Watford. How do you think Watford fared? I would like to know your view about how Watford did in this January transfer window. I thought that Watford didn't do badly. I think they did as well as could be expected given what we know of the Potsos and how they do business. And I think in the acquisitions they got, the SK3 group, that would be Samir, Kayembe, Kamara, and of course Kalu. They did not do badly. I don't think they did badly at all. I am pleased that Watford did get one centre back. I would have loved for them to get a second centre back to give more defensive options to a team that really hasn't found a consistent central defensive pairing. I would have liked to have seen another central centre back, but hey, Watford did get one in Samir, and he's rock solid. I really like how Samir has performed in his debut against Newcastle. I thought was very good, composed, controlled, calm, methodical. Did the bread and butter fundamentals. I think he has a lot of confidence. He's somebody who took to the Premier League in at least the game against Newcastle as if he'd been playing for a long time in the Premier League, and he didn't do badly either against Norwich. I think that he was pushed in the clearly pushed by Timo Pukki in that game. But look, that game is now a distant memory for I think Watford fans everywhere. The bottom line is that Samir is a rock solid and steady centre back, and looks like granite too, doesn't he? So I'm very pleased with him, and the other acquisitions of the original SKK group before it became SK3. Kamara and Kayembe also very rock solid. I like Kamara in particular. I like what he brings at left back. Again, in Newcastle, he was very good. Looked to move the ball quickly. Had some real patience on the ball, but did not take long on the ball. He has an idea of what he's doing with the ball. He has an idea of going forward, and he does go forward. Like that kind of energy and enthusiasm. That's what I sense of Kamara. Lots of energy and enthusiasm, and he really takes to that role very well at left back. And then Kayembe, the Rolls Royce, I call him, in the defensive midfield, the holding midfield area. Really liked how he, I think, brings a little bit more calm and stability to that back line. I think he did that very well against Newcastle, moving the ball well. Always has a good eye for a pass and makes the good pass pretty quickly. I don't think he's been intercepted, but maybe once in the two games that he's played. I don't recall any more than that. But Kayembe also very solid and steady. Now, the SK3 group also now includes Samuel Kalu, who just came in last week. So he has not yet played for Watford. I expect that he will be at least on the bench at the very least in the game coming up this weekend against Burnley. But we'll see how Samuel Kalu shakes out for us when he starts to play on the pitch. But for me, the most important thing now, look, we can talk about the fact that Watford should have got another goalkeeper because I think they should have. They should have had another backup goalkeeper because there's no confidence, at least for me, and I would suspect for a number of other Watford fans, in Daniel Bachmann. Daniel Bachmann is not someone who I think inspires confidence in some of the Watford fans, in many of the Watford fans. And as a matter of fact, I don't think he inspires a lot of confidence in the back four because I don't think the back four at Watford um, appreciate or really have confidence in him. I really don't think so. The communication is not good. We've seen it many times with Bachmann. I don't think there's much communication between him and the back four at all. Now, look, it takes two to tango, so it's not all Bachmann, but Daniel Bachmann definitely is not the goalkeeper that he appeared to be in the championship. Of course, he really, I think, has got exposed at the Premier League level. I think he has been very much exposed. And how limited he is as a goalkeeper, it's shocking, quite frankly, that he is even an international goalkeeper. But this is not an occasion to bash Daniel Bachmann. That's not the mission here. It is to emphasize the importance of needing another goalkeeper that I think would have given Ben Foster a lot of cover. Ben Foster, who has just got back, certainly isn't the Ben Foster that we knew and loved when he was a little bit younger, just a little bit younger. And we still love Ben Foster, I had criticized him earlier this season about all the YouTube videos, and I'm sure there were other Watford fans. Certainly, I know there were other Watford fans who did as well. But Ben Foster, whether YouTube videos or not, is still a much better goalkeeper, I think, for Watford than Daniel Backman is. And so it will be good to see Ben Foster back in goal. I expect that will happen this coming weekend against Burnley, but we needed another backup goalkeeper. That's one thing that I could nitpick at. It's an important thing, though. It's not a trivial thing. And the other thing is another central defensive, another central defender would have been also a good option, just to give more options to that back line, that back four, and to have a defensive partnership in that central defense that is consistent and solid. Samir definitely is one of the very competent defenders that Watford have. And Nkulu, who is injured and won't be back at least for another couple of months, would be another. He was very good in the short time that he was here, but he got injured. Very unfortunate. And so it's a really serious injury because he's been out since November. We'll see when he comes back. It's expected to be April. That's what the timetable is, between March and April. And I would say whenever you hear something like that, think of the later stages of the second month that's mentioned. That's usually how I look at these things in terms of when players are expected to return. And look, that those are the things about the window. I think that overall, I think out of 10, I think Watford get a 6.5 out of 10 for the window. Because as I said, yes, there are things that Watford, I think, needed to do that they weren't able to do. And look, let's face it, in January, you're not going to get 8 players coming in. You're not going to do that. That just doesn't happen for most teams anyway. And the fact of the matter is, goalkeepers are at a premium, especially this time of year. Most of the time, teams do not want to let go of goalkeepers unless they're absolutely surplus to requirements. And with the business end of the season, a lot of clubs, I think, are more reluctant to let go of their goalkeepers. So you just never know, especially those teams in a relegation fight. They don't want necessarily to part ways with goalkeepers. Now, look, there were some goalkeepers yesterday who made loan deals and they went off to a different club. But most teams generally don't do that with their goalkeepers in January. But the bottom line is that with all of this said, I think the most important acquisition in the January transfer window for Watford was Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson has to be the most important acquisition that Watford made in January. And the board did the right thing bringing in a manager who, though I initially had some real reservations about, has definitely calmed me down as a Watford fan. And Roy Hodgson, I think, is going to be a very important and crucial reason why Watford not only stay up, but stay up comfortably and stay up and finish in 11th place, as I have been calling and saying all season long and before that, that Watford would finish 11th. I think that he's got the right temperament, the right know-how, and I think he's going to be a very calming influence on this team, and they will be galvanized by someone, I think, who teaches them the fundamentals, treats them like human beings, and actually interacts with them more than we've seen with the previous manager, the previous head coach, rather, who was here. I think that it's very clear to me that interaction with the players is an important thing, and you can't just interact with them on match day and maybe for an hour or two on training. You really have to develop relationships with them, and if the players don't see that you're doing that, if they don't see that you are investing in them, they're not going to invest in you. I mean, we can criticize the players all we want, and yes, sometimes players should be criticized, but if you are not investing in those players, they are not going to give you 100%. They're just not going to. And with the way things are now in football, with players having so much power, they will get you sacked, and they will get you sacked fast. So, there is an incentive for a manager or a head coach to uh, develop a bond of trust with the players. Players have to trust them. The manager has to trust them. And it's a symbiotic relationship. And hopefully, I think Roy Hodgson, along with Ray Lewington, and it's really good to see Ray Lewington back, can bring that and get these players to perform, because there's 18 games left. It's all business end now, beginning with Burnley this weekend. And I'll talk about that in the Friday Focus, but it's all business end of the season now for Watford. And as I said, the most important acquisition in this January window was the manager. I mean, let's face it, as good as SK3 is, and certainly SKK, the SKK part of the SK3 group, as good as they have been in these two games that they've played, and I think they were good in the Norwich game as well, even though the team played awfully as a team. As good as the new acquisitions have been so far, we'll see what happens with Carlu when he starts to play. The most important acquisition in January and the best acquisition was getting Roy Hodgson in, and I think that will turn out to be. I will turn out to be right about that. I think by the end of the season, and if I'm not, I'll be happy to replay this video. But I think I will be borne out um, correctly by the time we get to the end of May.